Mercedes Toto Wolff aware of celebrity status and AI deepfake. Nah, I need another summer break.
That's rude.
Hey there guys, I'm Will and welcome to the Comedy Review, the show where making fun of Zach Brown is considered friendly fire. Right, listen here you little shit. It's also the show where we talk about things that happen in motorsport. Things like this. The American dream makes Valtteri Bottas wet. Mercedes push women in the workplace by sending this one to the kitchen. And Red Bull unveil their driver plans for 2026.
Thanks for letting me borrow your pen.
Thanks for letting me borrow your car.
Wait.
You were expecting a joke about cats and dogs there, weren't you? You racist bigot. Anyway, too bad. Christian Lundgaard's already f***ed it. A lot's happened across F1 summer break. Colapinto still managed to satisfy his crash fetish, Ollie Behrman got to cosplay as Emperor Palpatine, and Oscar Piastri became a meme. But really, I think we all just wanted Formula 1 back. Sky Sports immediately making us regret that decision when this discounted bollock appeared on our screen. Let's move on to some better news, albeit news that was so obvious it didn't really need to be announced at all. I think actually we've got a segment for that, don't we? Cadillac have announced their drivers for 2026, fishing around in the F1 bargain bin and pulling out a wild Valtteri Bottas and Sergio Perez. And as per any decision in Formula 1, people absolutely hate it. Personally, I think this is a fantastic decision. And while yes, the 11th team could have provided two fresh faces with an opportunity in Formula 1, has still waited half a decade before testing out some new talent, and look how well that went. On a serious note, you've kind of got to feel a little bad for the pair, having fought so hard to return to the top flight of motorsport and these be ridiculed as boring or fat. No, hang on, sorry, that's just me. But even poor Bottas couldn't have his spot in FP2 without being photobombed by a Mercedes engineer who appeared to have just let out a little more than just a fart. Elsewhere in the news, Flavio Briatore was in the headlines once again, criticising the move to place Franco Colapinto in the car, while seemingly forgetting he was the one that made that decision in the first place. It's never great when even your social media admin is posting clips of the team packing up early and going home, only they weren't actually allowed to, after Alpine were forced to seek special dispensation from the FIA to un-f*** Franco Colapinto's chassis after the Argentinian binned it during a Pirelli tyre test following the Hungarian Grand Prix. That meant no summer break for the Alpine employees. Well, for those who haven't been fired by Briatore yet, tell you what, it's been a long time away, let's just get on to FP1. F1 drivers went all over the globe in their month off, and their love for the beach was more than apparent when FP1 rolled around. Snowden one of the first to go for a spin, then taking the Lance Stroll approach of driving through the gravel to return to the circuit. Luckily, Yuki used that special thing he has to get through to the other side. What was that called again? Oh yeah, talent. Speaking of talent, or perhaps lack of it, and Lewis Hamilton was spotted giving his portrayal of the Black Swan in the first sector before the man who replaced him at Mercedes went for a more permanent stay in the gravel at turn 8. That brought out the red flag as Kimi begged to be allowed to rejoin the session, quite surprising he even needs to ask, given he's become fairly good at bidding it in FP1s over his short time in Formula 1. Always eager to learn from the youth, Silver Arrow's teammate George Russell tried out one of Antonelli's lines when we got back to green, but quickly settled on the conclusion that driving on the black stuff was for some reason faster. The highlights then go on to talk about James Hunt, which is usually code for not much else happened for the rest of the session, which is technically true, the next incident only coming after it had concluded. Max Verstappen taking his practice start, then just not being bothered to complete the rest of the lap. At this point, Norris led Piastri, and special apparently, as we became inundated with reports of heavy rain coming towards the circuit. Said moisture never arrived, but here's a nice tweet as we start Friday afternoon's running. Lance had a strong opening practice session. What can he do in FP2? Well, bin it in the wall as it turns out. After a brief red flag intermission, Isaac Hadjar became the next one in the wars, his RB going back into holiday mode as it pulled off at the side of the track. FP2 also saw the triumphant return of Logan Sargent as Williams went into this weekend seeking more experience. When it comes to binning it around here, and Captain America is a bit of a pro when it comes to that sort of thing. A second red flag was required to retrieve the 23 car from the gravel, providing Oscar Piastri the perfect opportunity to assassinate George Russell for some reason. We didn't see the reaction of the Mercedes garage, though I assume it looked a little something like this. In the end, there was so much drama in FP2, it's almost easy to forget that Lewis Hamilton went for a wee spin again. But not me, so enjoy this one, Team LH. Norris would lock up the top of the timing tower once again, followed closely behind by Alonso and Piastri, as the rain predictions return for FP3 the following day. And I think we all know where this is going, don't we? So yeah, the rain didn't show up. Shock, with Sky Sports seemingly preparing their coverage for the McLaren Express train on Sunday. And it would be Lando Norris once again coming out on top at the end of Saturday's FP3. A shoe-in for pole then, sure hope that doesn't proceed to age like f***ing milk. Elsewhere, Kimi Antonelli was back out on circuit, though struggling with downshifts and apparent pace as he couldn't muster any higher than 17th. Max Verstappen also had a go at Pierre Gasly, for no apparent reason other than the fact that he's French. The pit lane also continued to be a point of contention for George Russell, as he came across Fernando Alonso reminiscing about Prix 1994 and forgetting there's a speed limit there nowadays. The Aston Martins were having a rather fun session though, still in the mix after Friday, and looking like there could be challengers up the front end of the grid. Lance still found some time for a strollism though. Here he is complaining about being held up by Tsunoda, and thus in the process holding up the silver arrow of Antonelli.
This guy is complete idiot, huh? Complete idiot, huh? Complete idiot, huh? Complete idiot, huh?
On to qualifying then, where Aston stands an opportunity to have their best Saturday performance since 2023. Oh, never mind, specials f***ed it already.
This guy is complete idiot, huh?
That booked up one slot in the Q1 drop zone, though that still wasn't enough to see Franco Colapinto progress. The Argentinian out alongside the Haas pair and Nico Hulkenberg, who appears to only do well from the rear of the field, and so now seems like he deliberately tries to start from there. With the midfield so close, Q2 is usually the place where we see a couple of surprises. So let's jump to the dying seconds as the highlights are focusing on a Fox instead, which sort of shows how interesting this session really was. Yuki Tsunoda hit a new low when he set a lap time identical to that of the remaining Sauber of Bortoletto, and joining them in the elimination zone was Gasly, Antonelli and Albon, who was about as happy with that development as someone who'd just stuck their cock in a paper shredder. All that was left then was the top 10 shootout, and as usual, I think we need to prime the bottle counter at this point in the weekend, just in case we need it at all. Norris had dominated proceedings up to this point, but Piastri clawed some advantage back throughout qualifying. By the time they'd come across the line for their first runs in Q3, the distance between them was so small even Nikita Mazepin's genitalia struggled to plug the gap. Just 12 milliseconds in favour of the Australian, not even worth a bottle on Lando's part. Both drivers were pushing to the absolute limit. While we waited for the papaya pair to fit some fresh rubber and go again, the big question was if anyone could get close to their effort to the top of the times, which is a bit like asking a nun if they could win a gangbang contest. We'd focus again on the championship battle then, as the McLarens went for one last gasp at the end of the session. This time Norris quicker than his teammate, though before all the Quadrant fans have their orgasm, it's worth informing them that he was still slower than Piastri's initial effort. That put the Australian on pole as Verstappen slotted into P3. Further back, Charles Leclerc had been nice enough to let Lewis Hamilton get a taste of being the lead Ferrari on the initial runs, but moved back ahead as the flag fell. And the big shout out goes to Racing Bull star Isaac Hadjar, who came home fourth due to some divine act of God. Unfortunately for the Frenchman, he's now being complimented by Helmut Marko, which means the likely early promotion to Red Bull and thus the end of his career. Anyway, on the subject of careers, let's find someone who has none. It's our ex-Bellend of the Week. With a whole summer break to choose from then, who will be our victim today? Let's spin the wheel and, it's a close one, but it's a Lewis Hamilton stamp, because apparently they've not suffered enough already in this video. This all starts with the rumours last week of four-time IndyCar champion Alex Palou being tipped for a Red Bull drive in 2026. I made a whole video on that if you want to check it out, which was uploaded just as said rumours were proved to be bollocks, but watch it anyway to make me feel better about myself. Stan Report here decided that he needed to share his expert opinion on the matter, and with the likes of Kubica and Schumacher on your profile, maybe for once we're not dealing with a DTS pleb. Nope, turns out even the traditional fans can be bellends too. The Verstappen camp's worst nightmare. Palou would turn Max into a stay-at-home father. When another user questioned our esteemed prick on the matter, he responded with this: Palou is dominating a spec series. The last spec series Verstappen completed, he finished third and lost to Esteban Ocon. So you heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. Esteban Ocon is better than Max Verstappen. So let's just cut to the best replies for this one, shall we? As Stan's report was quickly torn up and thrown in the bin. That still doesn't mean anything. Lance Stroll dominated the spec series, F3, and then went straight into F1, for example. Please someone give this idiot a brain. Verstappen is a four-time world champion, buddy. What is Esteban doing? And potentially my favourite reply to an ex-Bellend of the Week ever, so Hamilton is worse than Ocon. Thanks for confirming. Big thank you to these Bellend hunters for making me aware of this one, and if you'd like to nominate the next ex-Bellend of the Week, use the hashtag on screen, tag me on the platform, or join our Discord server. Now, time to get to race day. Oh look, William Story's posting feet pics. So Sunday rolls around, and guess what the alleged weather forecast is? So as we prepared for a completely dry race, and #Blessed got himself under investigation for yellow flag infringement before it had even started, we got ready for 5 red lights and watched on as Norris bottled the start, and see that's why we had it ready beforehand. Verstappen made the move despite having all the control of a Morgan turn with the chainsaw. Slightly further back, Hadjar remained in 4th but was now the cork in the bottle. Great news for Lewis Hamilton, who got to pretend he had pace again. Lap 9, and Norris was able to unbottle himself, pulling admittedly a fantastic move around the outside of Verstappen into turn 1. With all our likely passes under our belt then, we got our pillows ready as Sky started pleading God's piss again. Oh hang on, apparently the track surface is slippery. Is it actually real this time? No, it's just Bortoletto's front wing. F1's wet dream would finally come true on lap 20, only for the teams to ignore it and switch onto hards anyway. Also, it appears Zach Brown's joined the third right here for some reason. Lewis Hamilton, meanwhile, had realised the undercut was extremely powerful, asking Ferrari to pit him and get ahead of Russell and Leclerc. The Scuderia thought this was a fantastic idea for Charles Leclerc's weekend, leading to #Blessed rage quitting in frustration. One safety car intervention, and Norris attempted assassination later, and Piastri led the field back to green on lap 27. Lawson and Sainz doing battle into turn 1, both racers having their best races in recent memory until they collided and picked up punctures. Also, this is Sainz's fault because reasons. As the Spaniard decorated the circuit in pieces of Williams, we got a virtual safety car and Alpine entering their gang crime era. When that ended, Charles Leclerc seized the opportunity to pull off the overtake of the year on George Russell, which was immediately noted by the stewards because F1 is not allowed to be fun anymore. I'll be honest, I zoned out for the next few laps, woken up by Ferrari trying out strategy again. Charles Leclerc was happy on his tyres, which of course meant it was time for a pit stop, putting him out ahead of the Italian Mafia, or Osama Bintanelli, which I actually quite like better. Either way, living up to his name as he went to get revenge on his teammates and introduced the turn 3 barriers to the second Scarlet Ferrari. With Leclerc's 16 car now repurposed into a crimson red fidget spinner and the Monegasque opting for a photo shoot on the sand dunes, the safety car was back out and we were left with a 15-lap sprint to the finish, and more rumours of rain, which quite frankly we couldn't give a f*** about anymore. Lando Norris had maintained second at the restart, though was reporting different weather conditions in the form of smoke and fire. The 4 car out with a vaping addiction and his 5-year-old fan base in hysterics, which doesn't make me happy whatsoever. What makes me very happy is the sight of Isaac Hadjar in 3rd. Now he only had 4 laps to hold on as Piastri led Verstappen to green, and the invisible rain returned for the 347th f***ing time. Piastri managed things sublimely at the front though, to take the win from Verstappen and extend his championship lead to 34 points from Lando Norris. But the equally big story was the man a few cars behind, Isaac Hadjar, P3. A sublime race all round, and if you told me the guy balling into the arms of Anthony Hamilton in Melbourne at the start of the year would end up on the podium, I'd have found you a psychiatrist, which granted Hadjar will need once he gets his promotion to the main team in 2026. Other shout-outs go out to Behrman and Stroll, who came for the back to points, and to Kimi Antonelli, who also fought back to finish inside the top 10. Oh, actually, hang on, he's got another penalty, this time for speeding in the pit lane, and what's even more impressive is he's seemingly managed that all while on 3 wheels. Returning to the Grand Prix on a whole though, and it's giving Malaysia 2016 vibes. To be clear, that's not the reason I'm giving it an 8 out of 10, but for the Lando stand still watching, you've at least got a bit longer for your boy to bring it back. This was a really big swing in the championship, which is now bordering Piastri's to lose, and I'm just saying that because I know how well things that come out of my gob age. Look, I just want an exciting end to the year. If you've enjoyed this video though, I've been struggling to keep the lights on throughout the summer break, so now F1's back, we're gearing up for a jam-packed end to the season. Liking and subscribing really helps me out as we get closer and closer to that magical 200k. If you want to go the extra mile and get some exclusive content too, check out the Patreon down in the description below. I'll be back very soon with the final IndyCar race of the season. Until then, and it's felt like a while since I last said this, f*** off.